Hi, I think I'm live. I'm Cassandra Marcella Metzger. I'm the founder of Wellspring Stones, the online oasis for women living with illness. And I am here today to talk about the first day of spring. Tomorrow is technically the first full day. Spring starts at 2 minutes to 6 tonight. And it's actually a really special spring equinox. I don't know if you heard, but it's also the full moon tonight, about 4 hours later, I think at 9:43. And it's a supermoon. But the last time that a full moon fell on the spring equinox was back in the year 2000. And it won't happen again until 2030. So that makes today a pretty special beginning of spring, I think, in my book. And I just wanted to pop in here and talk about ways that you could embrace the season and embody spring, even if you're tied to your bed. As you might be able to tell, I'm not feeling so good today, but I didn't want to miss it because today's the day. Today's the day of spring. So I wanted to talk about 5 ways that you can embrace the season, even if you're tied to your bed, even if you're sick and you can't do the things that you want to do. You know, T.S. Eliot's poem, The Wasteland, starts with April is the cruelest month. You know, he's talking about spring and how everything is waking up around you. And you know what? I'm going to read it to you. Hang on one second. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm and covering earth in forgetful snow. So I love that because I think it really captures the tension of what it's like when everything is waking up around you and you cannot move. And it stirs a lot of desire and maybe memory about how things used to be. I just had a birthday. Birthdays tend to do that too. And I actually just spent on Monday about an hour talking to a prominent national health reporter about what it was like to live with chronic pain. And, you know, it's not easy. I've done it for 20 years. And she wanted to hear about my story, and it churned up a lot of memory and a lot of pain and a lot of grief and a lot of loss. So, but the spring equinox is a time to begin again. And it used to be the beginning of the year. That's why September and October, November, and December are 7, 8, 9, 10. Because the year used to start in March, back in the Roman times. But I want to start first with a poem. Sorry, a blessing for the spring equinox. This is from one of my favorite books called This Celtic Devotional by Caitlin Matthews. So she's got a little prayer in here to welcome the spring equinox. So I want to share that first. Sorry, I had it bookmarked. Here it is. Glad bringer of brightness, hail. Maiden of grace, lad of laughter, gifts of vigor are returning. Again, maybe not as much as we would like, but they are returning. Spring's surprise, rainbow's embrace, quickened be the heart within us, opened be our souls to grace. May the blessings be abiding, and welcome sit in every face. So I love that. Somebody recently told me that the colors of the rainbow also represent the chakras, and that the pot of gold at the end actually represents like when you're in alignment and everything is flowing, then you reach your pot of gold. I don't know if that's true, but I like that. Okay, so let's talk about the 5. The first one is spring as origins, or as a beginning. Like I was saying, this used to be the beginning of the year. These springs are also where the rivers start and then flow into the ocean. Springs are a source of life, as water is. So for me, I see this as a time to sort of recommit to my New Year's resolutions, which maybe have fallen off. More consistent bedtime, more meditation. Last year I committed to doing more meditation, and I've actually succeeded in making that a pretty regular habit. I'm up to 207 consecutive days or something, which is pretty cool. Or, you know, maybe it's just consistently reaching out to friends. Whatever practices you need to do to enhance your wellness. A good book for this, even if you're well, is a book by Pember Chodron, Start Where You Are. And, if it's March, not January, just start. You can always start again. It's something that I learned in my meditation practice. When your mind wanders, you just bring it back to your breath and you just begin again. Second one, look at this. I forgot. I have all these nice little, wrong way, little headlines. So we talked about that one. Now the next one is spring as flexibility. Spring suggests also like a malleability, like the bed springs in our bed. Like when you lie down, they adapt, and when you get up, they go back to their original position, the original form. So in spring, I try to aim to embody that flexibility and that agility. I mean, my illness sometimes has me bedridden for weeks at a time. It's not up to me when it comes and when it goes. I just have to try to stay nimble in response and adapt to those boundaries and the barriers that come up as a result. So I try to embody that buoyancy that that I think of with the bed springs. One of my yoga teachers had a nice metaphor about the yoga practice, that when we're striving for that flexibility, what we want is to be a tree that can bend in the storm so that it doesn't break. The bitter or rigid trees break in the wind, but the ones that can bend in the wind don't break. So, that's something I try to do psychologically in my daily living when things come up and it's the wind is trying to break me, that I'm able just to bend a little bit out of the way. Okay, the next one is spring as creativity. So a lot of times when we think about these obstacles or barriers to the things that we want to do, it's often just easy to feel defeated. And I like to recast that a little bit to really something that can be a catalyst for creativity. So here's an example. Last spring here in DC at the Hirshhorn, there was a Japanese artist. Some of you may know of her because I think the exhibit's been traveling ever since, by the name of Yahu Kusama. She's mostly known as the polka dot lady, I think. And her best known creations, which featured all those dots, seem to go on into infinity. And the way she came up with that, I'm going to read actually a little bit from the curator, one of the curators. They wrote this: in response to the labor intensity of this work, she started to utilize mirrors to achieve similar repetition, and the reflective surfaces allowed her to transcend the physical limitations of her own productivity. So I love that, because I think that we too can use these barriers or boundaries to find innovative ways around our limitations that can extend and then magnify our efforts. I don't know if it's a mirror or what it is, but to see sort of the constraints as a way of boosting new ways of doing and new ways of being. I think that's wonderful. Okay, the fourth way is spring as growth. As life is bursting up all around us and the stalks and asparagus are growing up with their strong yang energy, and we're stuck in bed. So how do we grow? How can we can't go for a walk to enjoy that or start our exercise program because our sleep is so, disordered. And here's what I would say about that. We can still strive to improve our skills, our life skills, and our habits. There was, just last week, I saw on the Huffington Post a tree that had been horribly damaged during Hurricane Maria last year. It was a beautiful tree, an ancient tree, like a sacred tree. And they thought that it was not going to live after the storm because it was so damaged. And what the article showed last week was that it grew around that wound from the storm and sort of absorbed it. So it's not denying the reality. It's not denying the wounds, but learning how to grow around it and absorb it and maybe change it by growing around it in that way. You can't change with the force of the storm. You can't change necessarily the damage or the wounds or the grief, What you can do is grow and make a bigger life or a more meaningful life in a different way that will absorb it. Another good example is I'm a yoga therapist, so when I teach people how to do a handstand, I talk about gravity being an immovable force, and that you learn to dance with gravity. And your hands are like constantly moving on the ground, like looking like they're playing a piano, as you try to react to gravity moving through your body. And the more skilled you are, the less you'll fall over, the more able you are to dance with the gravity. So that's just physics, right? And if I think of my illness as an immovable force like gravity, it's just something I need to up my skills in order to dance with it a little better. And that doesn't seem so bad. Okay, the last one is spring as source. Now, this is a little bit related to the first one in terms of origin, but water is a sacred symbol of renewal and refreshment and rebirth. It recognizes that water is a source of life. It's the source of all of our lives. Our bodies are mostly water. So I use this season of spring to figure out what are my resources. What can I boost as sources? For me, that's maybe trying again to find the perfect type of movement for the rising strength that I have, or the energy and the sun for this time of year. But that's not always the case. I'm doing better this year than I was last year. Sometimes it's just an open window, or a fresh change of sheets if I can manage it, or a visit from a friend will refresh me. The other thing is, with the longer days, and we have more light now as a source and as a resource, I also ask myself, what can I wake up to and see and notice more? And so when I ask myself, what does my body need today? Maybe I can see that a little better with the longer days and the longer light. Sorry, that's a helicopter. There's a lot more helicopters going on in DC now in this administration. No comment beyond that, but there's a lot more noise pollution. So anyway, so back to this. So as spring is a source, I suggest that you ask yourself, what are your sources of renewal? What nourishes you? And to be playful about it and kind of go easy. This is also a time to kind of go with the flow. It's the full moon in Pisces. To just allow yourself to be carried by the water and not to resist kind of what's actually going on, whatever that is in your life. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I went through those kind of quickly. I don't know if there's anybody here who has any questions or any comments they want to share. I don't see anything. I hope this worked. This is the first time I've done this in a while. So I'm very much hoping that it's recording. So let me just finish with another little poem from here for Wednesdays. They have a morning and evening sort of prayer. And the one for Wednesday goes like this. I make the encircling of the crafts. Oops, sorry, that's Tuesday. I go forth today under the powers of the planets, the growth of moons, the energy of Mars, the beauty of Venus, the speed of Mercury, the majesty of Jupiter, the glory of the Sun, silence of Saturn, innovation of Uranus, infinity of Neptune. 9 bright stars to encircle my soul from day spring to nightfall. So I wish you a happy day spring, a happy spring, and a happy wellspring. I love the word so much I incorporated it into the name of my business. So I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for watching, whether you're watching live or watching later. I wish you a happy spring. Oh, I wanted to mention one other thing. Actually, I can't believe I almost forgot this. If this was helpful to you, you can read about it on my blog, wellspringstones.com/blog. And I posted last week so if you want to read and you take in information more easily reading, you can read what I just was talking about. But I also, in my enthusiasm for the topic, created a free handout. So that is available now at the bottom of the post. You just can opt in and I'll send it to you right away. It includes some really good journaling prompts, so you can dig in deeper, and it gives you a place to write about all that. I think I have one for each of the 5 and then a bonus one. And then, in addition, I also created a list of things that you could do, ideas for spring, for your body, and here's your spirit, and also for your mind. So these are all with links in different ways, over 30 ways that even if you're sick in bed, that you can do. So I hope you like it. I had a lot of fun creating it, and you can, again, just find that on the blog at wellspringstones.com/blog. And I think it's not the most recent post, but one back. So I hope you check it out, and I hope you like it. Let me know. Bye.